This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, everybody.
Good evening, Alderman.
Make everybody in?
Yes, we have 7 board members present and everyone is in from the waiting room. We can begin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of the Preservation Board. I'll call a roll, establish who's here. Commissioner Robinson, are you here? Commissioner Hamilton, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Killeen, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Weber, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Allen, are you here?
Present.
Alderman Coder, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Robinson, are you here yet? Okay, I note 7 commissioners present. That constitutes a quorum. Make an announcement.
Yes, to all of our participants from the public, if you would like to comment on any of the agenda items, please put something to that effect in the chat with your name as well as the address of the agenda item, and we will make note of it and call on you when the public participation section of that agenda item begins. But comments written in the chat do not count as public comment and will not be part of the record. So please put your name and the address in there and we'll call on you. Thanks.
And I'd only add to that, if you are not speaking and are not a commissioner, if you would not mind muting yourself and your animals until I call on you, I'd appreciate it. Commissioners, have you looked at the agenda for today? Anybody? Any changes? Any recusals?
Yeah, I need to, this is Commissioner Richardson. I need to recuse myself from the Lafayette Square Hickory item.
Okay, let's see if I can find that. Agenda item A, recused. Anybody else? Okay. This will be our agenda then. Commissioners, has anybody looked at the minutes from March 28th, 2022? And if so, do you have a motion?
Move to accept.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Chairman Callow, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell who made the motion.
Weber.
Go ahead.
Who did? I'm sorry.
Weber.
Thank you.
okay, minutes have been approved. Let's begin with the agenda, calling agenda item A, 2245 Hickory Street.
I'm waiting for the PowerPoint. I'm Jan Cameron from the Cultural Resources Office. And could we go back to the first slide, please? Okay, and then down to Hickory, if we could. Okay. This is a preliminary review application to discuss roof access structures to be added to a previously approved building design in the Lafayette Square Reserve Development, which is essentially the north side of the 2200 block of Hickory Street in the Lafayette Square Historic District. This is the site. The 2245 is actually right about where that billboard is. And you can see the rest of the development is commencing down the block. Next. And this is the site. It is at the corner of Missouri Avenue. And the visibility of these roof structures is contingent upon the visibility of both Missouri and Hickory. Next. This is the street elevation and alley elevation of the entire development. And what we are concerned with is the property at the far left, which you can see has a flat roof. There's a mixture of flat roofs and gable roofs and a hipped roof on the development, but this particular one is a flat roof, and that will make this roof structure that you perceive on the elevation more predominantly visible. Next. This is a site plan. I'm sorry it's upside down, but it fit on the slide better, and I wanted you to be able to see the detailing. That is the house with a deck at the back, and then there is a brick garage at the alley. So there will be some screening, but it will not really affect the third floor. Next. This is the model example, 1906 Hickory. Next. And this is the proposed elevations. Now keep in mind, these are elevations and the roof structures will not be as dominant as they appear on here, but that gives you an idea of the location of them on the roof. They've been pushed back as far as they can away from the Missouri elevation, but the staff feels that they're still probably going to be quite visible. With the exception of the roof structures, the permit in front of you complies with all the requirements of the Lafayette Square historic standards. Next. On the left is the elevation on Missouri. On the right, I balanced it with the elevation that will actually be in the gangway, but it'll give you better an idea of the actual shape of the roof structures. It's what is being called a pop-up, which will just basically allow access from the stair into a roof deck. Next. And this is the garage, which will be entirely brick. Next. And again, we're looking at the site looking directly north. You can see the excavation for the foundation. They have received a foundation only permit from our office because that would have no effect upon the roof structures, and it was following plans approved already by the Preservation Board in 2019. Next. Now we're looking again, I took these photos this morning, so there's been a little bit more construction since the first photo. These are looking east along Hickory, and those are the townhouses towards the eastern end of the development. Now on the right is the view from the intersection of Missouri and Hickory, and we're looking basically northeast here, and you see the proposed development site right in front. Next. Again, we're at the site. This time on the left frame shows the excavation of the foundation for the building, and we are looking southeast towards the Hickory. And then on the right slide, we're looking directly across Missouri to the site. Next. Guess that might be it. Oh. And again, the last slides I have to show you are these close-up shots of the site. And on the right one in particular, you can see by the excavation, the general location of where the house will be. The staff feels that there's no way that this structure can be not visible from the street. And it is very clear in section 30510 of the Lafayette Square Standards that roofs of new construction shall be flat or pitched and shall not have any unusual attention-getting forms. Now, I should say that the board, you will recall, a couple of months ago did approve these roof structures for other buildings on the development where they will not be seen from the street. So that leaves us with just 2245 to decide tonight. And the developer is requesting that the board reconsider its condition that these elements should not be street visible. The staff is recommending, however, based on the standards, that the board withhold its original approval and deny this particular preliminary review application. Questions?
Questions, commissioners?
Yes, Jan, it's Mike Colleen. I have one. Were alternative solutions discussed? I know we've looked into this in our firm. They have products out there that are you can't see from the street. You know, the door slides open, you know, down at the surface of the roof. I mean, is anything like that even been addressed?
We have not entered into that. I believe the developer wishes to pursue this option at the moment.
Thank you.
Further questions from commissioners? Okay, let's hear from the applicant. Jeff, you here?
I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I guess we'll start with my slides. So slide 1 is so pretty. Let's bring that up. And then let's go right on to slide 2. There's just a little trip down memory lane. The ovals there indicate what you approved at the February meeting, which was pop-ups that were demonstrably not visible from the street because they're screened on the left and the right by third floors primarily, but also just because of the proximity of the facade of the building to the street. It's just very steep looking up at them. Let's just go to the next slide. And this is what we're talking about today. That little thing that you see sticking up on the left and the little thing you see sticking up in the yellow circle on the right. Next slide. And we talked a little bit about this in February too. I was kind of hoping that you guys could give me some guidance in February, but we didn't get to that. And so some of this will look familiar to you. That's a site plan with sightline angles. And if we just go to the next slide, you'll see sightline angle A. There it is, directly from the front. We go to the next angle or the next slide, and that's what you see if you're standing at position A. Like we talked about in February, these are all based on a person whose eyeballs are 5 feet off the pavement. In this case, that person is beyond, I believe they're beyond the right-of-way. You can see the right-of-way spans 60 feet, and that person is beyond the sidewalk, or they're beyond the right-of-way. So someone would be standing in the yard of a piece of property across the street. And still, as you can see the blue arrow, it continues over the cornice and off into space. Someone standing at that position would not be able to see the top of the pop-up. Next slide. We took a sightline angle from the intersection of Hickory and Missouri. Next slide. And that's what you get at that angle. Once again, the little stick figure is got eyeballs 5 feet off the pavement, and the arrow soars over the cornice and misses the top of the pop-up. So someone standing at that position X on our original drawing, will not be able to see even the top of the pop-up. They won't even see the top 1 inch of it. It's not possible. It's out of view. Next slide. This is position Y. This is perpendicular. So similar to the photo near the end of Jan's presentation that showed being directly across the street to the west from the site. And next slide. Even the highest point, we actually ran that red line through the very tip top of the pop-up, and it's not possible to see the pop-up from position Y. Position Y, by the way, is up against the west edge of the right-of-way on Hickory. So there's a building there. So that person would be standing with their back against the building and their eyes 5 feet off the pavement, and would not be able to see, as the red arrow soaring over the top of the building indicates, would not be able to see the pop-up. Next slide. So then we get on to Siteline Z, and this is the one where the arrow actually ends. It doesn't soar by. Next slide. So this is the first time that the arrow has actually intersected anything. It clears the back wall of the building and catches a little bit of the railing and a little bit more of the pop-up. It's probably maybe 6 feet of the pop-up and 3 feet of the railing, 3.5 feet of the 2.5 feet of the railing, something like that. The railing ice is 39 inches. So you're seeing maybe 2.5 to 3 feet of the railing. Next slide. This really kind of paints the picture, though, is the very large building behind us blocks views of all the other homes from southbound Missouri Avenue, which is where we are as you're in these photos. The yellow arrow indicates the location of 2245 Missouri. And as you get to the right, the one on the far right, that is the approximate location of position Z. Actually, position Z is directly to the left of that black car on the right. So where you see the shadow of the power pole on the pavement, that is where you'd have to be to see what is visible from the angle that was sketched out in schematic Z. And next slide. And that shows you approximately what would be visible. That little bit of railing above the green box and a little bit of sided wall that's inside the green box. I think we talked last time, but I'll bring it up again. It's super important to us to have this roof deck on this house because this is the only house that actually has a view to the north. So for the same reason that it's visible from southbound Missouri Avenue is the reason why it's desirable to have, is that people who live in this home and have a roof deck will actually be able to see past the apartment building because the apartment building is just a little bit to the east. And so I think that the small amount of visible appendage is a small price to pay. I think the small amount of visible appendage is visible from a street not adjacent to the site. You got to go some distance north of the alley that bounds the north boundary of this property. So from the streets adjacent to the site, as we saw in A, X, and Y, the pop-up is not visible. It is visible from positions like Siteline Z, but those are not adjacent to the site anymore. So we're not visible adjacent to the site. It's a tiny amount of appendage that's visible to the extent that it is visible. And it offers a really valuable addition to the home because of its ability for someone with this roof deck to be able to see beyond. And in the grand scheme of things, the monstrosity next to us is a monstrosity. I don't think anyone's going to notice a little sided appendage on the roof when there's a huge 5-story building next to it. I think that's all I've got. And I'd be interested in your questions.
Questions from commissioners?
Hey, it's Alderman Coder. Were I guess all the sightline measurements you just provided us, does Cultural Resources have those? Have they looked at those? Have they challenged any of the assumptions in those?
I'm actually a little surprised that their position on this was presented the way it was. I mean, I recall one, that the board didn't actually render a decision on this in February. It wasn't subject to decision because it wasn't on the agenda. And two, I thought that we demonstrated pretty clearly that it's only visible from this one angle. So why they don't believe my schematics, I don't know. I thought I put a fair amount of effort into getting it right. They are all to scale. So yeah, I don't know why their presentation is different from my understanding of it.
Further questions from commissioners?
Hey, Jeff, it's Mike Killeen here. You probably heard my question earlier. Have you considered different ways to get up there so we don't have to have a pop-up on that one?
Well, so Jan and I talked about a couple possibilities. One would be a rectangular monitor instead of the angled monitor.
Mhm.
If you actually, yeah, let's look at a different slide. Let's go forward a few slides to keep going. A few more into my presentation. Keep going. Let's see. Looks like number 22. Yeah. So if we did a rectangular monitor, then it would be visible from the street in front. That this angle, this wedge shape actually helps with its visibility from the street. So and Janice suggested that a rectangular monitor, there is historic precedent for that, and that might be approvable. I feel like it's creating a problem while it's solving one. Hatch scenarios, I don't think are a comparable product. If you've got to raise a door as opposed to walking up the steps and just walking out, that's a different kind of experience.
Oh, there's some pretty good luxury ones out there now for this kind of thing. It's not all your utilitarian hatch type thing. So it's worth looking into because that actually might even be cheaper for you on this thing. It just comes out of a box and you install it. So
how does it open?
To consider.
How does it open?
Well, it is a hatch, but it's actually some of them they shift back. It doesn't look like you're just sending the janitor up there to change the filters. It's nice, the people can go. Nothing against janitors, but the people can go up there and you can entertain. It's European.
Yeah.
So
I just think that experience of having to push up on the door is one I don't want to put people through. It doesn't feel like an easy transition the way walking up the steps and walking out the door does.
Further questions from commissioners?
Yes. Jeff, if we deny this today, will there be no deck and walkout, or will you explore some of these other options?
Well, my guess we would entertain the rectangular one, but I mean, you've already heard the downside of that. It's an appendage that would be visible from the street.
Right.
So, I think this is a great solution. I think it doesn't amount to much in terms of what anyone's going to see from anywhere. And that we are in this portion of the historic district that had a little more flexibility in our compliance. So yeah, we'd really like to try to get this roof deck on this house because as I discussed, the benefit of the view to the north. We've also had buyers talk about doing a 3-story house at this location, which would also, I guess that's something worth talking about too, is that so far no one has said they want this one. We've talked about it, but they've gone in different directions. But if we did a 3-story house at this location, there would be a siding wall 23 feet wide that would be visible from position Z in the Siteline schematic. And that would be okay. And I don't know why that would be. It seems to me like a 3.5 foot, it's 4 feet. A 4 foot wide sided wall is better than sided wall, that's the difference between a pop-up and a 3rd floor from position Z.
Could I respond?
Yes.
Okay. One thing, that sided wall is a typical historical feature of mansard roofs and other roofs, so that would be absolutely appropriate and a lot different than an unusually shaped protrusion as is shown here. Beyond that, I need to submit also for your attention some letters we've received. And one is from Alderman Ingracia, who says that she is confirming her support to deny the structure. Now, I should say all of these have been provided to the board members prior to the meeting. Then the Lafayette Square Preservation Committee, signed by Suzanne Sessions, in definite opposition to the structure. Mary Doms in opposition. Linda Paulman also in opposition, and Ronald Gorman in opposition. And in addition, just a minute before the meeting started, I received a letter from William Odell, who said, I fully support the rooftop stair that Jeff Winserling would like to add to the house. He said it will only be seen by people in the apartments or possibly someone in the alley. That's my presentation.
Is there anybody signed up to speak on this subject?
Yes, we have Ms. Linda Paulman.
Okay.
Thank you for your consideration of this. I concur with Jan, a third story would be historically accurate. The pop-up is not. We've spent a long time working on these historic codes, and it's important to us to maintain as much of a historic look as we can in our community. While Jeff has said that there's more leeway in that area, and that's certainly true, it does not waive our right to say we don't want pop-ups visible. And he clearly stated that the pop-up is going to be visible. And it's as if it's a slippery slope that, well, this one's visible, so the next developer coming in, well, you did it for him, so you have to do it for us. I think that our development committee was, willing to negotiate. He has pop-ups or he has rooftop decks on a lot of his middle buildings where they are not visible. And so I maintain the position of all of our development committee that we do not want this in our historic district. This is one of the jewels of St. Louis. And we just don't want to step away from the historic code that we have. Thank you.
Anybody else, Meg?
No one else has signed up.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, that concludes testimony on this matter. Commissioner Colleen, would you like to make this motion?
No, sir.
Commissioner Allen, would you like to make the motion?
No, not yet.
Commissioner Robinson, who is now present, would you like to make the motion?
Commissioner Robinson is present. But no, I am thinking on this one.
Alderman Coder, would you like to make the motion? Don't relax yet, Commissioner Hamilton.
Sure, I'll make a motion. I'll move to uphold the director's denial and deny the rooftop appendage as planned.
Is there a second?
Clarification, this is actually a preliminary review, not an appeal of the denial.
Sorry, I'll amend my motion. I move to uphold the director's preliminary denial of the rooftop deck.
I'm gonna have to second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call a roll, and this will be the roll that I will use tonight. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no? Alderman Coder?
Sorry about that. I vote yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
The chair abstains on the vote. There are 6 yeses, 1 abstention, and the
One
motion
recusal.
carries. And the motion carries. Thank you very much, commissioners. Let's do agenda item B, which is an appeal for at 5240 Washington Place. The one thing that we will do differently is that I will ask those who testify to swear or affirm that their testimony will be the truth. What is the address of the property? Bob,
5240 Washington,
and what does the slide say?
5020. Oh, it's changing.
Huh. Nicely done. Proceed. Without a mute. You're still muted. Nope, still muted. Okay, let's try again.
Okay, now I will enter in Bob Bettis with staff. I'll tell the truth. This is for 5240 Washington Place. I'm going to enter in the enabling ordinance, which is 64689 as amended by 64925. The Central West End ordinances 56768 as amended by 69423. My presentation and my PowerPoint. Okay. All right, so what we have before you is an appeal of the director's denial to install a slate roof, to install fiberglass shingles on existing slate roof at the property you see before you. I'm going to give you a little context first, walk you around the site, and then talk about the ordinance. So this is the building. Sorry. Here is some context for you. We're mid-block on Washington. We have it's a mix of lovely large-sized homes. This is looking west on Washington Place. The subject property is actually at the left, behind the tree. This is the view east along Washington Place. Okay, so I'm going to get into the specifics for you on this. The roof has a mix of existing historic slate and a mix of asphalt shingles. On the front facade, which you see here, the front slope of the roof, the slate is original and there is existing slate on the sides of the dormers. If you look on the east side of the property, you can see the mix of the artificial material and the historic slate. So you can see the sides of the dormers, and the front slope is slate, side asphalt shingle. On the east side, you have existing slate. There is a cricket that attaches to the chimney, that is slate, and the dormer on this side is slate. And then you can't see the rear has been replaced with artificial shingle. The proposal calls for replacing the entire roof with a fiberglass shingle. That proposed shingle is what you see on the screen right now. It's called a Belmont Certainty shingle. It has some designs on it to give it some fake depth, but it does not have the actual physical depth of an actual shingle. So we have been working with the applicant, trying to get some different ideas on what to do. The applicant is present and he'll speak shortly. We explained the code states that if you have existing historic material, you're supposed to repair to keep it or to match in kind, or go with an artificial slate like a plastic Da Vinci, that line of product. Those are all very expensive products. And that is going to be the crux of the argument from the applicant that the material is too expensive. Staff cannot approve, obviously, the replacement of the existing slate because it will also be on the sides of the dormers, the other side on the west on that cricket. So it's losing all that historic material. And this picture on your screen kind of gives you the contrast of what will change on the building. You'll lose that original appearance. The applicant has submitted some items in terms of cost. To do an entire new slate roof will run into the $119,000 range to do the entire roof in a Da Vinci. Mr. Hutchinson will hear, he can also speak further on that. I do know that Jim Dwyer is here to speak on behalf of the opinion of the neighborhood. So given all that, staff does recommend that the board uphold the director's denial of the permit to replace the existing slate with fiberglass shingles on the roof and the sides of the dormers, as such replacement is not allowed under the Central West End Local Historic District standards.
Commissioners, are there questions? Okay, let's hear from the appellant.
You can hear me. So if you would please go back to slide number 37, please. So if you look at this is the front.
As you begin, please tell us who you are and affirm that you're going to tell the truth.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. My name is Carl Hutchinson. I'm the resident, 5240 Washington Place, and I will tell the truth in my comments and testimonies about the property and the roof.
Thank you very much. Proceed.
Yep. So if you look at, you can see some worn, weathered patterns on each side. You do see some consistent inconsistencies there. So obviously, you know, a repair, if you were to do some repair, you would not still not get a consistent look. You still may have some of the weather patterns there on the sides as well. And then if you can go to the next slide, please. And if you look here, I think Mr. Bettis mentioned you have the slate on the dormers, the slate on the side, and then there too by the side of the chimney, you will see the shingles. And so when you talk about repairing or replacing like for like, yes, you will lose the character there, but you will also gain a little bit more of a consistency pattern, and just an overall, the roof will be under one pattern using one material. So that is one reason for the whole replacement. Now, as some of you may know, when you're dealing with an old property, replacing a roof or even painting, that usually unfolds or really starts to escalate in other things that go wrong with an old house. So even though we have estimates for 100, 120 for replacing the slate, we know that there's probably going to be more expensive than that. So thereby, if you're going to a lesser shingle and to be able to cover the cost of any additional repair or items that will be repaired based on recovering the roof of a 100-year-old house. So for those factors is why I was looking at going to a much more of a shingle, lower cost, but also a consistent material for the front and the back.
Is that all, sir?
I'm sorry?
Is that all?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions for the appellant? Okay, Meg, who signed up to speak?
Sorry, Richard, Chairman. I'm sorry if I missed this, but what's the cost of what Mr. Hutchinson's proposing?
The cost for the permit was $57,000 for the initial proposal. Yes, yeah, the fiberglass for the entire roof would be $57,000 for the initial application. $119 plus for the slate.
Got it. Thank you.
Da Vinci also, Da Vinci it's an installation cost issue, why it equals slate generally.
Thanks. Nothing further.
Further questions?
We have Jim Dwyer was to speak.
Okay, Mr. Dwyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll warn you in advance, this is slippery slope day, referring to the testimony from someone in Lafayette Square. This is a tricky one. And
or that could be a good pun based upon a roof.
yes, it could be. Leave it to you to recognize that. So I swear to tell the truth in this matter. And my name is James Dwyer. And as usual, I am here on behalf of the Central West End Planning and Development Committee. And I should tell you up front that Mr. Hutchinson and I have gone back and forth, both via email and on the telephone on this matter, and attempted to find, well, to make sure we understand each other and hopefully to find a mutually acceptable resolution, which we were not able to do. This is an important matter, not only because of the project that is before us today, but because of considerations regarding precedent and what might occur in the future. So I will report on behalf of the committee as follows. Chairman Callow and members of the board, the CWE Historic District standards are unequivocal regarding requirements governing replacement of slate roofs, especially where visible from the street, as is the case in this instance. First, the standards state that repair is preferable to replacement unless conditions are sufficiently deteriorated that repair is determined to be impractical, in which case original or historic roof material shall be used wherever the roof is visible from the street. The applicant has acknowledged that no consideration has been given to repair rather than replacement. We recommend that alternative be evaluated. Presuming it is determined that repair is impractical and replacement is required, the material proposed by the applicant and his contractor is non-compliant and should not be permitted. As has been discussed previously, it is essential to maintaining the integrity of the CWE Historic District standards that they be applied uniformly and consistently. In an unrelated but similar matter that came before the Preservation Board several years ago, the property owner at number 5261 Washington Place, located in the same block as the subject of today's hearing, proposed the use of a non-compliant fiberglass shingle to replace slate. That appeal was denied, and the applicant was encouraged to solicit additional proposals. Ultimately, a new contractor was engaged and a new natural slate roof was installed. In the interest of fairness and consistency, this appeal should be denied as well. As indicated in the CRO presentation today, the applicant has claimed that the cost of slate or even a slate substitute is prohibitive. That justification presents the prospect of a rather slippery and untenable slope. If cost were to become an accepted basis for exemption from the requirements of the standards, one can readily imagine that such appeals would soon become routine and the standards rendered irrelevant. Fortunately, there are synthetic slate substitute materials available that represent acceptable alternatives to natural slate. Examples include products marketed as EcoStar, Da Vinci, and Brava, all of which have been approved previously by the Cultural Resources Office. In summary, and for the reasons stated above, the CWE Planning and Development Committee recommends that the director's denial be upheld and that the applicant be advised to investigate the practicality of selective repair using natural slate, or alternatively, be required to replace all street visible roof surfaces with an approved substitute material. As always, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Is anybody else signed up to speak on this matter?
No, sir.
Okay, commissioners, this concludes our testimony in this matter. Commissioner Hamilton, have you got a motion?
Yes, I do.
Please make it.
Okay. My motion's that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial of the application to replace the remaining original slate roof with fiberglass shingles as the material does not comply with Central West End Historic District standards. Sorry.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion, commissioners? Hearing none, I'll call a roll. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
The chair abstains on this vote. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses, no nos, and 1 abstention. The motion carries. Calling agenda item C, which is also an appeal, 5727 Waterman.
And it is the correct address. No on the fly changing. Bob Betta is still telling the truth. Need to, this item, enter in ordinances 64689 as amended by 64925. And then also the Skinker to Bolivar ordinances, which is 57688 as amended by 70281. My presentation and my PowerPoint. The proposal before you at 5727 Waterman, it will be the replacement of the retaining wall you see on your screen. I'm going to walk you around, give you a little context, and then we'll talk about the rules. So here's your context. You're a few parcels off of De Bolivar. As you can see, there's a lot next door, which is not part of the property. The empty lot goes with the property to the east. Again, it's a nice block, single family homes. Let's give you some context shots showing the street. As you can see, the majority of the block does still have its original slope. Highlighted, this is the parcel to the east. And kind of looking back towards the subject property, you can see that there's a 2-tiered wall that is failing, and that is the one in question. And you look down the street, you can see some smaller walls that were put in without permits historically. This is kind of a closer up shot of those. So we don't have, before people ask, we don't have, for these two particularly, we don't have any kind of record of a permit for those. There was one approved by the board down further, which I'll show you real quick. This one, this is on the same block down further. It was an appeal of a denial, and that one was approved by the board, I think in the past year or so, predates me. So this again shows you context though in the street. The majority of the block though still has its original historic slope. Sorry, I bounced around a little bit, not to give everybody whiplash here. So the proposal calls for 2 things that really doesn't fit with the standards. The first is obviously the use of an artificial material. So on the left is the proposed material to be used. So they would take out the 2 railroad tie tiered walls and put this in. The second part, which staff has a serious concern about, is setting that wall back roughly 5 feet. Now I know the applicant has wavered on the actual distance of that. It might be 4.5, 5 feet, but either way, there is no setback on the entire block that has this kind of offset configuration. And that would definitely kind of disrupt the flow of the historic slopes on the street. So staff's big concern is that setback, but also again, the material usage is not approved, it's not allowed in the code. Here is a detail of the current condition. As you can see, it's in need of replacement, obviously. The stone would be, again, set back 5 feet, would run up the side of the driveway, and then you would have a landscaped 5-foot floor, essentially, to the proposal, and then you would have the new 3-foot wall. So the code states pretty much that if at least 50% of the block does not have an altered terrace, we can't approve it. And you can see the block face, it's pretty clear that there's a few here and there retaining walls, but nothing set back as proposed. So again, that's kind of what doesn't comply. Also, the cast in place material is inappropriate, as well as the proposed configuration. We don't have an official response from the neighborhood. I know the applicant is here. She has spoken with Nancy Homan with the neighborhood association. She has offered advice that they can't support what is being proposed because it does not meet the code. She does agree with staff that the pushing back of the wall would definitely set kind of a bad precedent on the block for this kind of a proposal. So given all of that, staff does recommend that the board uphold the director's denial of the permit to construct a retaining wall as less than 50% of the block terrace has been altered, and therefore the project does not comply with the Skinker-Bolivar Historic District standards. Have any questions?
Commissioners, questions?
Yes, Bob, I read the standards and it's kind of vague to me on what an alternative might be here. Has the staff considered or recommended anything else to the homeowner?
Yeah, Sharon's is here and she'll be speaking in a second. And we always appeal. The first thing is, hey, can you put the slope back? And Ms. Ellerson is here to give her rationale for it. She says over the years, people have used her wall to sit, and she feels that her best course of action is the proposal as submitted. We have asked that she return the slope, but it's been altered previously. So she is under pressure to replace a failing wall. We have asked to return a slope, which is always preferable, but she has her right to do what she thinks she likes to do. So,
thank you. And these other retaining walls we see in the view on the west, there's another photo in the agenda. Some of those have been approved by the board and some haven't.
Well, the only one that I could find that was approved is this one here at the very end. This was actually it was a complaint. They started the wall without a permit, and so they were halfway done essentially. So it went to the board and it was approved by the board.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Commissioner Weber.
Yes, Bob. If the applicant were to do the retaining wall as in this slide that I'm looking at, what would the staff's reaction be?
Paved, remember it's paved, setback is paved.
I mean, we would prefer, if approved, this is the preferable layout. One thing we definitely do not want to see is the 5-foot setback. So if it is the prerogative of the board to approve the submittal, obviously something like this is, this is better than the setback. So if it is the prerogative to approve it, we would prefer this versus the setback for sure.
Okay, so the big problem, again, is the setback and the material being proposed.
Right. Well, again, we're opposed because twofold. One, obviously, is the material. So we feel that the artificial stone is not appropriate and setback. But yes, we don't want to rank things that aren't appropriate per a code, but obviously the setback would be the most detrimental.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Further questions from commissioners? Okay, let's hear from the appellant.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Sharon Ellerson. I'm at 5727 Waterman And I do swear to tell the truth.
Thank you. Are you driving now?
No, I'm not. I am in my car, but I'm not driving.
Okay, proceed.
Okay. As previously stated, my reason for wanting the setback was to prevent people from sitting on the wall. And as far as the stone that I have picked, I mean, there's a lot of variety and choices of stone. I mean, I can pick a different stone if that's going to be an issue, but I do want to replace the retaining wall with stone. And one of the reasons that I requested the setback was also that when I originally had the retaining wall put in, there was a tree there when we first moved there. And we had the retaining wall to go around that. That tree has since died, and I had it cut down as far as I could without tearing out the retaining wall because I wasn't prepared at the time to replace it. But I thought if I recessed it back and planted a tree in front of that, that if there was something that needed to be done with the tree or it needed to be removed for whatever reason, that I wouldn't have to redo that wall again. And so I plan to do some landscaping or whatever in front of the wall if I'm allowed to recess it back. If I'm not, and it has to come up to the sidewalk, I can also do that, but I do want to replace it with some sort of stone. I do not want to replace it with wood again. I'm finished.
Richard, you're muted.
I am telling you that you're muted. While I am muted. Is there anyone else here to testify?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, commissioners, that concludes testimony in this matter. Alderman Coder, have you got a motion?
I do not right now.
Commissioner Allen, have you got a motion?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
I move that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial of a permit to construct the retaining wall.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'll just say it seems like from what Bob told us and what the applicant is saying, there's a very nice meeting point of compromise here if we deny this.
Okay. Okay, thank you, commissioners. There's a motion on the floor that has been made and seconded. I'm going to call a roll in the order of today. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
The chair abstains on this vote. There are 7 yeses and the motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. Let's do agenda item D, which is also an appeal. It's 2422, 2424 North Sarah.
I wanted to remind you before I move on to the next item, I'd like to remind anyone in the room if they wish to speak on the item besides the applicant, to please put in the chat which item you'd like to speak on. Again, if you're not the applicant, because we will call on you about that, please put in the chat if you'd like to speak on a specific item. Okay. Checking the address is correct. Okay, this is again Bob Bettis with staff, still telling the truth. And I will be entering in the ordinances. Again, enabling ordinance 64689 as amended by 64925. And then the Ville ordinances, which is 60236 as amended by 67174. This is an appeal of a staff denial to construct a single-story residential care facility. And I want to note that it's denied because of time constraints. It's not an issue of concerns in terms of design. It was an issue we had to deny it because of time constraints. Apply, we have to act on a certain amount of time to approve or deny a permit. So it was denied because of time constraints. So I want to make that clear on the outset. Okay, so we have, this is the site in question. We're going to construct I believe it's a 20-unit care facility. And Ms. Bost is here and she can speak on it fully later with her vision. But I'll go through the site, show you the proposal and then a recommendation. So here's the corner. We're at the corner of St. Ferdinand and North Sarah. We're looking southeast. Here's some context for you. If you can see my mouse, it'll be fitting that spot right there. I want to note in this slide also, Ava Bost, who is the applicant, she also operates the daycare on the 2 adjacent buildings, just to the south of the subject property. So here's some context. This area is seeing a lot of infill these days. To the east, you have a lot of new residential. So you kind of see what we're doing there. This is looking south along North Sarah. Again, the owner's properties are to the left. Across the street, you have a mix of single family, you have some institutional, and on the corner, there's a corner commercial across North Sarah. This is looking north. Noted at right, that empty lot is the subject property. So in the corner here, you do have a mix of some commercial buildings. And again, it's kind of again, some shots of Sarah. Again, down a little bit north on Sarah, you have some more single family residential, mix of historic and new construction. And it all fits well. You have a mix of brick construction and also some frame construction. So this is the current site as is. And this is the proposal. The site, obviously, you'll have a street frontage along Sarah with the new building and along St. Ferdinand. There will be a drive-through at the corner to help the residents get in and out. But overall, you do address the street with the property. Parking is in the rear. So although it has a bit of a called a suburban form, but at least it does address the corner in a manner that is more fitting of that intersection. And this is a proposal. It is 4 sides of brick. It's a single-story building. Again, and this is the side that faces Sarah. These are just some brief elevations for you. They're kind of hard to see, just given depth of the brickwork. This is the St. Ferdinand side. This is the rear. Even the rear side again it's all brick. So again, here's the site and then the proposed building along with it. Staff has gone through the code. We feel that it complies with all the new construction criteria set forth in the bill. We feel that it's appropriate for the site. You do see a mix of roof types. You do see a mix of materials. And again, we are happy with the way it does front onto the 2 streets. We have received a letter of support for the project from the Alderwoman. She is happy with the project. The applicant did recently go through the Board of Adjustments for the use, and that was approved. So she is getting all of her boxes checked. I think we are probably her last one. So given all that, staff recommends that the board overturn the admin denial of the building permit for the new construction of a 1-story care facility located at 2422 through 24 North Sarah Street, with the stipulations that final plans, materials be reviewed and approved by the Cultural Resources Office. Any questions?
So moved.
Bob, is there anybody here to speak for or against this?
Ms. Bost is the applicant. She is here. Ms. Bost is here. The applicant is here, but that's one person who wishes to speak.
Commissioners, just a straw poll now. Is there anybody who is likely to oppose this application?
No.
No.
Who made the so moved noise a minute ago?
Mike Killeen did.
Commissioner Killeen, would you like to make a formal motion?
I move we approve this design of what is it? We're overturning an admin denial. I move that we overturn the administrative denial and allow this project to go forward.
Is there a second?
Second.
Hamilton's.
Everybody.
Many seconds. I'm going to call a roll to make this formal.
Previous roll.
A previous roll has been moved. Barb, is that okay?
Second. Not hearing the objection, but there isn't a second. Yes.
Okay, previous roll has been moved and seconded. This motion is upheld using the previous roll. Thank you, commissioners, and this is a good-looking project. Calling agenda item E, 4069 Flad.
I'm Andrea Gagan, I'm from Cultural Resources Office, and I swear to tell the truth. I need to enter into the record the enabling ordinance 64689 is amended by 64925. The Shaw Neighborhood Historic District Ordinance 59400. The agenda, presentation, application, and PowerPoint. This is 4069 Flad Avenue, and you may recognize this from the November agenda. In August of last year, the office received a Citizen Service Bureau complaint about a fence being erected without a permit. And the fence was taller than the 6 feet allowed in the Shaw neighborhood standards. The property owners had erected an 8-foot tall horizontal wood fence on their east property line. And a violation letter was sent to the owners. They subsequently applied for the permit, and along with that permit applied to build an 8-foot tall fence along the west property line, which is along Thurman Avenue. It was denied, and the owner appealed in November of last year, and the Preservation Board overturned the director's denial with the condition that a fence up to 6 feet in height be erected on the west side, which is the Thurman Avenue side of the yard, and that the owners would work with staff to either recess the west fence slightly from the retaining wall or come up with the design details acceptable to staff. The Cultural Resource Office worked to develop a compromise proposal that would align with the Shaw neighborhood standards and the directive from the Preservation Board. However, the owners have rejected that proposal, preferring their own plan. So the owners had made a new application for the same 8-foot fences on both the east and west side of the property. Again, we have denied the permit as it does not meet the historic district standards or the conditions set out by the November 2021 Preservation Board decision. And the owners have appealed again. Bob, you can go to the next. This is a location at Flad and Thurman Avenues. Just another site plan showing fences. And then this is the current, what's currently there. You can see the 8-foot fence, horizontal wood fence that's on the east side of the property, which runs along their neighbor's property. They are also wanting an 8-foot fence on the west side, which is right at the, I think it's a 4-foot retaining wall, and would also run across the top of the garage on the porch. Go next. Okay. The portion of the horizontal fencing that is intended to serve as a handrail of the house's rear porch is not compatible with the existing details in terms of design and scale. The horizontal fencing is not an appropriate handrail for a porch, which is visible from the street. It's not compatible with the house's historic character. The existing fence along the east property line is 8 feet tall, and the proposed fence along west Thurman property line would also be 8 feet tall. However, the proposed fence would sit atop of existing 3 to 4 foot concrete retaining wall, which would effectively create a 12-foot fence along the sidewalk. What you're seeing here is on the left is what Crow, our office, proposed, which was a handrail across the porch, but we were going to allow them to close it behind it so that because they expressed concern about their dog getting through the pickets. And then allowing an 8-foot portion to cover their proposed deck, which they have not applied for yet, but it is in the planning to do. And then the rest of the fence would be a 6-foot fence. The owners did not feel that met their needs and wanted to apply for the 8-foot fence again. I'm not sure what their proposal shows some greenery along the bottom of the fence or covering the retaining wall. It looks like a portion of the fence itself, but I don't know what that exactly entails. And then next, and this is just the context directly across Flad. I believe the applicants here too, or the owners are here to give their presentation. That we did receive 3 letters in support of the neighbors, or sorry, support of the owners project. One from the Alderwoman, Andy Rice, one from the Shaw Neighborhood Improvement Association, and one from the homeowners on the south side of the 4100 block of Flora Place. And I believe that you were sent all of those. The Cultural Resources Office, because the proposed height of the fence exceeds the 6-foot maximum allowed under the historic district standards, the non-compatibility of the handrail or the fence as a handrail, and the look of a 12-foot wall basically at the street. The Cultural Resources Office recommends that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial as the fences do not comply with the Shaw Neighborhood Historic District standards.
Commissioners, questions for Ms. Gagan? Okay, let's hear from the appellant.
Hello, my name is Scott Mitchell, the homeowner and resident at 4069 Flad Avenue. This is Aaron Curran, also homeowner and resident at 4069 Flad Avenue. And we both
promise not to lie.
Promise not to lie, or promise to tell the truth in regarding the matter. Do you?
I promise to tell the truth.
Thank you.
I'm going to need you here for every meeting to do that. I forget it about half the time.
Thank you, first of all, to Andrea for that presentation. Thank you to the chairman and the commissioners for having us here. And thank you to Kate Climate, representing SNEA here in support of us today, all of her efforts and anybody else that might be present here. I believe that Andrea did a fantastic job in summarizing the timeline so far. We did begin erecting that fence without a permit based on my misunderstanding of taking down a fence and replacing it, not needing a permit. I later discovered that that's not the case when you're changing, materials and other dimensions. So that's my error there. Thank you for bringing this up. Bob, you're running the slides. Thank you, sir. This is just a summary letter at the beginning of our application. I think we can skip this. The application itself and the site plan. Next. Some image on the left is required by the permit. The image on the right is showing the location, not necessarily an exhaustive list, but the locations of several other 8-foot fences in our neighborhood and some very near to our property. Next, please. Here are some of those examples of 8-foot fences in our neighborhood. Next. Some more. Next. More. The one in the lower right-hand corner. Actually, all these images here are 2 short blocks from our house. They're just a couple streets that way. Actually, those 2 are directly across the street from each other, 8-foot tall fences. Next. And this you've already seen. There is a difference here. You've got some greenery in one image versus the other. That's an oversight in my part. I was just adding some little visual flair and forgot to add it to both images. You can ignore the greenery. This, I think, really highlights very well our desire for privacy and safety and a nice cohesive look, what we think to be a very beautiful look in the top image, and then the compromise, as it were, in the below. We'll see in some images here in just a minute. I don't want to go to those yet, but in the lower image, far to the right, there's a handrail of sorts in the CRO's proposed design there. Behind that handrail is a built-in place outdoor couch made out of pressure treated wood as a base and a very nice exotic hardwood material called tiger wood that's meant to last 50 or 60 years. The point is a handrail there for handrail's sake isn't really necessary in function because there's a built-in couch there. So a handrail isn't really needed. The fence design continuing throughout gives it that cohesive look. Additionally, the 6-foot lowered portion, as you can see, eliminates some desired privacy for the upper patio or upper deck area. And of course, there's the zigzag and everything else that we feel doesn't bring that beautiful cohesive look that we're looking for. Next slide, please. Technical
No pressure, Bob.
difficulties. Yeah. Thank you very much. Here's upper left-hand corner, a photograph of the tiger wood built-in couch there. To the right is a rendering of our design. Lower left is a photograph. It's pretty small, so you can't quite see the couch very well, but that's what's behind that area there. And then the same thing in rendering to the lower right. Next slide, please. And that's all. So in summary, I suppose we've received the support of our Alderwoman Annie Rice. We've received the support of SNIA, the Shaw Neighborhood Improvement Association. I believe Kate Climate is here still on their behalf to speak about that. And we received some other letters. So basically everybody we've talked to in the area, they love to stop by and talk to us as I'm in the backyard, moving dirt around and working on our project. They love what we've done so far. We haven't heard anybody say that they don't like our plan. And as a matter of fact, we've had many people speak up and say that they really like our plan. So we'd like to see that appealed today. I think that's it. You have anything to add, honey?
The one piece I would say too is that, and I understand this is part of why the denial took place in the first place, is that we're on a corner lot. But Thurman and Flad, Thurman's a major thoroughfare between Magnolia and Shaw. And again, with privacy and security issues, it's just that extra height personally gives me a little more safety and less exposure. There's, and I love, if anybody hasn't been to Sasha's on Shaw, it's like the best, but there's a lot of people who transverse the area, and we have had some vandalism, windows broken, things like that. And so where we're located, it just creates that extra safety. So I just wanted to call that out.
Thanks. I think that's it for us.
Commissioners, questions of the appellant? Okay. Who's here to speak?
We do have Kitty Climate from the neighborhood, but again, I think she said she wished to speak if needed. Unless Katie, you want to speak? Or Kate, I'm sorry. Okay.
Ms. Gagan, do you want to close?
Yes.
I'm trying to find the unmute. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kate. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that Annie Rice has changed her mind and now supports the approval of going forward with the owner's plans. The neighbors on all of the south side of the 4,000 block of Flora approve it.
We know that it is not within historic standards, but because they did such a great job with the approved garage, we would like them to have the privacy that is needed because their back porch, back deck is right above the built-in garage that was original to the house. And with their proposal, they will have the privacy that they need, as opposed to not only breaking up the wall, and so it's like a drop down, but people will be able to see it, I believe, from both the street and from cars.
Thanks, Kate.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Gagan?
Yes, I just wanted to address, I guess, the fences that were used as examples. For 3970 Flad and 3969 Shenandoah, we don't have any record of any permit actually being issued for those fences. For 4100 Russell, they had a permit for a 6-foot fence. So if it was erected as an 8-foot fence, they did not have a permit for that. And for 2110 Thurman, that was an 8-foot wall that was approved by the Preservation Board.
We didn't want to rat out our neighbors, by the way.
I think they're all old enough, they don't have to worry about it.
Good enough. Okay, commissioners, that concludes testimony in this matter, I believe. Commissioner Hamilton, you still here? Here you are. Do you have a motion?
Yes. My motion is the Preservation Board overturn the director's denial and allow the fence.
Is there a second? Is there discussion? Commissioner Hamilton?
I just feel, I mean, I understand it's against the neighborhood rules, but if everyone in the neighborhood is changing their mind and deciding they want to go with it, you know, it's their neighborhood, I say, let's go with it. So that's my reasoning.
Were you impressed by the Tiger Wood?
Oh, I loved it. I think I could sell that house. Let's put it on the market next week. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I saw your eyes light up. Further discussion. Commissioners? Director Lestow, did you raise your hand?
Can we get clarification on this, on the second on that motion, please?
David Weber.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
So further discussion, commissioners? Okay, hearing none, I will call the roll in the order that I've outlined, if I can find what I did with it. Hold on. There we go. Alderman Coder, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes loudly or quietly?
Yes.
Loudly. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. There are 7 yeses and the appeal is upheld. Thank you, commissioners. That concludes what's on our agenda for today. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Hearing no objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was Alan and Chevin.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Should I-
Don't do anything. Okay. I will end the recording. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
I can still see Kate.
Yeah, we still have some guests. Ms. Boss is still here. Melanie Fathman's here. Hello, Melanie.
Oh, Melanie's monogram is here. Oops, Melanie's gone. Oh,
Although
Melanie's
you are approved if you're on here still.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Hey,
Hello,
Melanie.
goodbye. It was great. Love seeing you guys.
Bye.
Nice to see you too, Melanie.
Nice almost seeing you.
All right, I'm ending the recording, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Thanks.